What's up, guys? Welcome back and thank you for joining me for another episode on the Falcon Rest-A-Mod project. In this episode we're going to cover building the chassis. So in case you missed the last episode, what we did was took the rocker panels apart, made the necessary repairs, and then we put a brand new piece of sheet metal on the inside to cleanly weld the new chassis to. And where we left off at the end of that episode is I needed to finish TIG welding the bottom corner and metal finish it. So let's take a quick look at wrapping up the rocker panels. The next step after the rockers were finished was to get the car sitting down at ride height. This was also sort of the time that I was figuring out what ride height I wanted. I knew it was going to be somewhere between 4 and 5 inches. What I landed on was 5 inches. Once I knew what my ride height was going to be, I went ahead and I cut the standoffs for the chassis for the frame rails to actually sit onto on the bed plate so I could start welding everything together and cutting up the pieces that I needed. And thinking about how I wanted to attach the front kickup and the engine rail to this turn in here, I knew I didn't want to just butt weld this piece to the side of here. That was going to allow for too much torsion, too much flex, because we're only relying on one piece of 1/8 inch wall. I ended up notching this whole thing out so it's welded around here as well as here on the inside. Add to that we boxed it in even further with this piece of 3/16 plate. This is an incredibly stiff section right here. So now we'll take a look at that process.
Gotta strike this chord with a humble hearts. I'm bearing heavy chains and blue collar scars. Inevitably they're gonna get their way. If it don't take that fight, take it to the grave. They try to walk with the angels in the city so fatal. So fall into the flames. lost inside. I'm gonna break the chains and let them testify. Never thought I'd brush the ashes off, no. To spare your mercy, it's a heavy cause. Yeah, you're gonna walk with the angels in the city so fatal. Yeah, so fall into the flames. Don't knock my reckless ways. We'll be unbreakable, unmistakable. Live in overdrive when the world is waking up, and the wolf will taste no blood. We'll be unbreakable, unmistakable. Live in overdrive. Soon to erupt, smoke's going up, ashes within my lungs, but I'm still breathing, still believing. So soon to erupt, smoke's going up, waiting to feel the rush like fire from the sky, and I'm in overdrive. So fall into the flames. Don't knock my reckless ways. We'll be unbreakable, unmistakable. Live in overdrive when the world is waking up, and the wolf will taste no blood. We'll be unbreakable, unmistakable. Live in
At this point, I had my main tube sitting in place. It was time to work on this intersection that will support the floor pans, starting with the rear crossmember. So now in order to place the seat supports in the floor pan support webbing in here on the inside, I needed to know where to put the seat. This required some mock-up. I didn't have the engine that I was going to be using for the car, so I ended up making a cardboard model based on dimensions that I gathered online and a small block Ford head that I had laying around in the shop. It's not the most accurate thing in the world. I'm not making brackets based on this thing, but it did give me a good idea of where I was going to put everything. With the engine and the trans and myself sitting in the car, I realized I probably had room to move everything back just a little bit more to help out with the weight distribution between front and rear axles. It did cause a little bit of a ripple effect, and I ended up having to reroute a couple of these tubes on this inner structure to get around the exhaust pipes so the exhaust could go around the transmission and keep everything tucked up inside the chassis. On top of figuring out where the seat was going to be, I was also able to figure out some driveline angles, and from there determine how much needed to be scooped out of the center of that rear crossbeam to make room for the drive shaft through suspension travel.
Make it good enough to last. I need your touch.
next thing to work on were the plates to make the torque boxes and to box in this section, as well as the plates that are going to triangulate the junction between this inner webbing structure and the rear cross brace. Up next is the rear section of the frame, including the kickups and the rails that are going to go into the trunk of the car.
Take me to the fire and gold. I feel it down in my bones. Electric running through my soul. I'll never let it go. The ghosts are lying next to me. Oh, I feel it stirring underneath. Crawling through the fire and thunder, dreading in these cold dark waters. The ghosts are living in my dreams. This fire never dies. We'll make it out alive.
Moving on to the last component to make it set in place, the front K-member. Alright guys, well here we are, it's the big day. I actually am going to start welding this chassis together today. I'll give you guys a quick walk around. It's everything that needs to be welded at this point before we can start actually fabricating suspension connection points and linkages and components. Well, so far the frame is still square. Based on some information that I found online, the suggestion was to start with your vertical outside corner welds and move one corner to the next, one corner to the other, working in that pattern. Then you're going to come back in, you're going to do your top and bottom welds, top and bottom of one, go across diagonally, top and bottom of that one, and so forth, complete the pattern. On top of that, I've also got some of the welds, top and bottom of the butt joints in this rear boxed in section, and so far it looks really good. But that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to be notified when the next episode comes out, which we're going to be designing and building the suspension system. Be fabricating all the links, the control arms, the connection points on the frame. If you'd like more frequent updates on the build, you can find me on Instagram at Bradfords_garage. I post more frequently on there, photos, sometimes short video clips of the things that happen on the project daily in between episodes. You can also find a build thread that I started on protouring.com. I'll post a link to that down in the description of the video. That's going to do it for now. I'm going to get back to work welding this thing up. See you in the next one.